Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. I hope everybody is hale and hearty. In today's class, I'm going to switch my exposition to one of the most principal and significant aspect of phonemic categorization. In the previous class, I was focusing on the individual vowel sounds in the form of monophthongs. In today's session, I am going to concentrate on something new, and that is also related to the vowel sound but from a completely different prism, and that is in the form of diphthongs. Now, first and foremost, we need to understand that what are diphthong sounds. Diphthong sounds are actually the combination of two vowel sounds. Now, what does it imply? What do we mean by this two vowel sounds? If you just reflect back, in the monophthongs, we were concentrating on individual sounds, long vowels, short vowels, but over here we are going to observe and witness something new, and that would be that we would be making a gliding movement. Now, what is a gliding movement? It implies that we move from one vocalic position to another vocalic position. Let me slightly explain it. Now, this is something that one needs to explain before diving deep into the subject matter of diphthongs, because in diphthong sounds you are not going to rely on individual phonemes. Rather, you would be witnessing that we would be moving from one vowel to another vowel, thus making a gliding movement like this. Movement from one vowel to another. Now, this is how you make a gliding movement from one vocalic position to another vocalic position, and the criteria of being a vowel would remain static with just one exception, and that is that we would be moving from one sound to another sound. So let's discuss the diphthong sounds. You must remember one thing, that diphthong sounds are further subdivided into two broad categories. And what are those categories? I'm going to draw those categories and then slightly explain them. So let's focus. Now, if you can see over here, I have divided the diphthong sounds into two classifications. One classification is centering, the other is closing. Now, these are the two categories that one needs to identify. Before explaining them, you must remember one thing, that there has never been a case where these diphthongs have been explained at length in the classes at BS level, and that's the reason why the students of linguistics are often stuck in identifying and appreciating these vowel sounds, especially the diphthong sounds. So you must remember that there are two classifications. Now, how these two classifications operate? Now, centering diphthongs and closing diphthongs. I am deliberately avoiding the terminology of vowel sound because all of us have now an explicit insight into the phenomena that these diphthongs are also vowel sounds. But I am using repeatedly this particular term diphthong so that the things may not get confusing for you. So just focus over here. First, let me write what do we mean by centering and what do we mean by closing, and then I'll explain. Just look at over here. In centering, I have written ending with schwa sound. If you just reflect back on my previous last lecture, in the last lecture I was trying to distinguish between a short vowel and a long vowel. This one was a short vowel. So there are certain diphthongs that end with schwa sound, and these sounds which end with schwa belong to the classification of centering diphthongs. What? Centering diphthongs always end with short vowel, and that is schwa sound. So next is closing. Now what is a closing one? So let me write and then I'll explain. Now just look at this. The closing is ending with the another short vowel, and that is again a short vowel. I will now try to identify that what type of short vowels are these. I've already explained them, and these schwa sound, this schwa sound can be explained with the light of certain examples. If you can say take consultation from my last lecture, you would be able to understand what is schwa sound. So over here, short vowel. This short vowel can be witnessed in this short vowel can be observed in words like took, book, hook, shook. Now this is something very much important. One ending with schwa, the centering, the closing ending with two vowels. There are two classifications, further classification. One is ending with short vowel and another ending with another short vowel. Now this is something that you need to remember before starting diphthong sounds. Now this was something very much important. Now I would be moving towards the symbols, because symbols are extremely important. You need to understand these symbols so that you people have a very clear idea, a very clear picture that how we are going to realize, appreciate these diphthongs and different examples. So let me start. Before starting the symbols, you need to remember one thing, that how many diphthongs do we have? You should be able to understand this phenomena. There are 8. How many? 8 diphthong sounds in English language. Another thing, point to note is that you must not confuse the phonemes of English with the phonemes of other languages. We are only concentrating on English language. So over here, there are 8. How many? 8 diphthongs in English language. As of whole, we are having 44 phonemes. In these 44, you need to remember some of them are consonants, some of them are vowels. And within the vowels, we have monophthongs, diphthongs, and then triphthongs. So these are diphthong sounds. And what is a diphthong? In a diphthong sound, we have a combination of two vowels where we make a gliding movement from one vocalic position to another vocalic position. So let's start with the symbols. Look at this. I have written 3 symbols. These are centering, and every diphthong is ending with the schwa sound. Which sound? Schwa sound. So you can easily identify that these 3 diphthongs belong to the classification of centering diphthongs. Now let me write few examples so that you people may have an idea. You may have a clear notion that in how many words or in what type of words do we observe these sounds, diphthong sounds. So let's start. Look at this. I have written few examples. You can easily identify these examples. Dear. It's not dear. It's dear. R is silent. Just consult my last lecture. I told you that post vocalic ra is never pronounced most of the times. In standard pronunciation, in a British pronunciation, this r, post vocalic r, is a common casualty. It is never pronounced. So dear. So this ear, dear, fear, So this is something that you need to understand. Gliding movement from one vocalic position to another. In this one, fear, tear. It's not tear, no, tear, fear, dear. Now this is the first. Second, if you look at this, again, movement from one position to another, gliding movement from one vocalic position to another vocalic position. Rare, rare, bear, dare. How dare you? How dare you? Dare. It's not dare. There is no ra. Dare. So it's not a long vowel, it's a short vowel. Most of the times the students, they confuse the long vowel with a short vowel. So you have to be very, very meticulous in these matters, especially in the case of pronunciation of English language and its words. Now, rare, bear, dare, that's the second. Third, again, movement from one position to another position. Pure, tour, poor. So ooh, ah, ooh, ah. So poo, ah, poo, ah, two, ah. So ooh, ah. So this is the movement. One movement, another movement. One wall to another wall. This is how you making a gliding movement. So this was about the centering ending with schwa. Let's move towards the next classification with the closing one. Now over here I have written three diphthongs. If you look at these three diphthongs over here, there is a confusion between the two always, and the students are often at a loss when they encounter a vowel like this. Now why do they make a mistake? Over here we have a problem. Just forget about this one, I'll focus on this one first. Over here, this is a schwa and this is another short vowel. It's like I. And this one is I, like in five, child. So both of them are short vowels, the combination of short vowels. Over here, this one is a long vowel and this one is the short vowel. That is why most of the times the students are often at a loss and they use these two interchangeably, but it is quite acceptable nowadays. You can switch between the two sometimes. Why? Because the pronunciations have mixed up. But you need to make a distinction that this is the combination of two short vowels, schwa sound and short vowel e sound. This one is long vowel and a short vowel. This one again is a long vowel and a short vowel. And we can witness this in words like oi. What? Oi. So like boy, toy, coy, joy. Now this is the sound over here. Child, shy, I sound. Which sound? I. And this one is I. Eight. And this one is I. This one is oi. Oi. So this is how you are going to make a distinction. The gliding movement is the same in all the three diphthongs that I have written on the whiteboard. They are the same. They make the same pattern. They move from one position to another position, but with a distinction. Sometimes you may have the combo of a short and a long vowel. Sometimes you will have a combination of two short vowels or one long and one short. So this is how you are going to realize. But for understanding diphthongs, you need to understand the monophthongs so that you have a clear idea of the monophthongs and its symbols. Closing. We are again focusing on closing. This is again a short vowel. Over here, we are going to concentrate on two of closing sounds, diphthong sounds, and these are ending with O. O. So look at this, the very first combination of schwa and a short vowel O. So, coat, show, old, show, cold, show, short. Both are short vowels. Both are short vowels. Over here, of, how, now, cow, this one. O and ow. O and ow. So this one, O, cold, show, this one, ow. How, cow, now. So ow, ow. So this is how you are going to understand. And if you observe, in all the diphthong sounds, one thing was static, and that was the movement from one position to another, one vocalic to another vocalic position. And there was the combination of either short long vowel or both short vowels. So this is how you are going to realize and identify the diphthong sounds. So this much was enough for today. In the next session, I'm going to concentrate on triphthong sounds. Till then, I would like you all to watch my videos and do subscribe it and stay tuned to my channel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you in the next session.